Good day everyone, and welcome back to today's episode. Today, let's talk about building trust in your marriage. Trust is the glue that holds two individuals together in a marriage. A lack of trust leads to suspicion, suspicion generates anger, anger causes enmity, and enmity may result in separation. Trust in marriage, how to build trust with your spouse. You see, trust in marriage can be built and made stronger over time. Even after trust has been broken, if both spouses work together, it can be rebuilt through transparency, consistency, and effective communication, even when it may be difficult. As you already know, trust is extremely vital for your marriage to thrive and be fulfilling. It's also the most important thing that makes pursuing any relationship worthwhile. In fact, trust is the glue that holds a healthy marriage together because, without it, a great relationship can't exist. That's why we want to show you the 3 most important and effective steps required for building or rebuilding trust with your spouse. Now, think about this. Can your marriage survive without trust? Is it even possible to have a healthy marriage without the complete trust of your spouse? As you can see, trusting your spouse is key to a happy, healthy, and fulfilling marriage. From our experience, it is impossible for married couples to have a real marriage or relationship without that complete trust. By real relationship, we mean a fulfilling and healthy marriage. The well-known causes of trust issues in marriages. When it comes to trust issues in marriages, the most common cause is one, or a combination of the following: extramarital sex, lying, financial infidelity, emotional affairs, constant contact with an ex, insecurities. That being said, the presence of trust issues certainly plays a big role in many unhappy and unhealthy marriages. Most importantly, trust issues such as infidelity can result in lifelong consequential effects on your kids, spouse, family, and self-image. Building and maintaining complete trust in your marriage should be a top priority. Why complete trust in marriage is so important? Building complete trust with each other is one of the best things we've done to build a strong foundation for our marriage. As a result of building and maintaining trust in our marriage, we've been able to talk about anything and be heard. Communication and resolving disagreements is much easier with the trust. We have each other's best interest in mind. Also, it gives you the freedom to express yourself truly. Trust makes you feel secured enough to be vulnerable. And it creates a peaceful home environment. In other words, being able to trust your husband or wife provides you with comfort. It reduces stress, insecurity, and worries about your husband or wife not being honest with you about everything. Unfortunately, having no trust in your marriage means your marriage could end in a separation or divorce very quickly. The lack of trust could also lead to an unhappy life with a roommate, your spouse. Trust impacts all forms of intimacy. Whether it's emotional, intellectual, or sexual intimacy, trust plays a big role in how satisfied you and your spouse will be. In marriage, we have the opportunity to have the most intimate relationship with another human being, our spouse. For you and your spouse to be so closely connected, you must feel comfortable enough to bare your souls to each other. Intimacy comes from knowing the other person at a deep level. If there are barriers to honesty, knowing is ruled out and the false takes over. Boundaries in marriage. In order for us to feel safe enough to bare our souls to each other, to be naked not just in a physical, but an emotional way with our spouse, you must be able to trust them. True intimacy is the closest thing to heaven we can know. Trust is one of the best perks we can have through our marriage. Truly knowing someone, having them know you, being truly loved and accepted for who you are, is truly the best feeling in the world. Step 1 for how to build trust in your marriage: transparency. Building trust in a marriage doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. Building trust requires effort, especially if either you and or your spouse have trust issues from past relationships or marriage. However, there is an easier way to make complete trust a reality in your marriage. Simply start by being completely honest with your spouse. Communicate truthfully. Stop the petty lies. Don't exaggerate or minimize anything. Tell your spouse when you overspend on an item in your monthly budget. Let your spouse know when you have entertained thoughts about being with another person or are tempted to cheat. How do you and your spouse define cheating for your marriage? Again, tell your spouse when you are hurt by his or her words and actions, but also be ready to take responsibility for your own emotions. Be vulnerable because vulnerability opens up the door to building trust with your spouse. When you forget and didn't do something you said you would do, be honest about it with your spouse. Sincere and honest communication won't be easy all the time. But do it anyway because the end result is worth it. Keep your spouse in the loop. Share what's going on in your life and throughout your day with your spouse. What are you excited about? What are you learning? What struggles are you facing? Honest communication is a simple, yet effective concept. Because the more you establish trust through honest conversations, the easier it will be to open up, feel connected to your spouse, and strengthen trust in your marriage. One of the things we've done to help with transparency is to share passwords for our phones and computers with each other. We highly recommend you do also, especially if you're trying to rebuild trust with your spouse. Can one little white lie really do any harm to your marriage? Why must I tell my spouse so much? Our answer is simple. As you strengthen trust between you both, the need for such detailed transparency will lessen over time. When building or rebuilding trust in your marriage, you each need to see with your own eyes that the other is being honest and is trustworthy all the time. From our experience, being consistently open about the little things makes it easier to be honest about the bigger things that come up in life. Also, it creates a safe and honest communication environment for your marriage. In other words, trust is built through consistency. Step 2 for building trust in your marriage: consistency. Just as we mentioned above, be unwavering with your words and actions. Simply because it's essential to building trust with your spouse. We all have that one friend or relative that promises to show up, and more often than not, it falls through. Over time we learn to lower our expectations of them and not put a lot of weight on their word. So, be accountable and follow through on your word. Let your actions reflect your promises. Common sense tells us that if someone lied to us once, they'll do it again. If someone hides or omits parts of the truth, we learn they are not trustworthy and unreliable. We don't feel completely safe around them, and as a result, we naturally withdraw from them. We need that consistency in a person's words and actions to build trust. Lies are not telling your spouse the truth, because what they don't know won't hurt them, simply erodes the basic foundation of your marriage: trust. You will find it difficult to be harmonious with your words and actions. As a result, being truly intimate on a deeper level with your spouse will be very difficult. To build trust, you must be transparent with your spouse at all times. More importantly, tell the truth. And even when it's easier to hide the fact that you overspent at the store, don't. Again, tell the truth. Show your spouse that you can be counted on. If a message from an ex slides into your DMS, give your spouse a heads up. The moment you start deleting things so they don't see them, is the moment infidelity starts. Deception damages a relationship. The act of lying is much more damaging than the things that are being lied about, because lying undermines the knowing of one another and the connection itself. Deception is the one thing that cannot be worked through because it denies the problem. Step 3 for building trust in your marriage: effective communication. Needless to say, if the second step in building trust is transparency, naturally, the third step will be effective communication. It's one of the most important marriage skills that will get you closer to building trust with your spouse. Effective communication will also help you to communicate without fighting, feel heard, and be able to listen empathetically to your spouse. Once you learn how to communicate with your spouse, it will become easier to approach or talk to your spouse about anything. For example, you will be able to have deeper conversations, which is the key to intellectual intimacy. Effective communication is the path that will help you build trust with your spouse. In addition, communicating effectively brings you together, helps you to connect with each other, and makes being honest easier. Simply because you will be talking to your best friend, the person you have decided to commit the rest of your life to, and established an intimate relationship with. And here's the best part: when you completely trust your spouse, making love is better, more passionate, free and satisfying. Finally, in building trust, or Trying to rebuild trust, you need to be honest with your spouse. And your wife or husband needs to be honest with you also. Even when it hurts. Building trust in marriage is as simple as being open and honest with each other. Take the first steps to establish trust by communicating to your spouse that you need to be honest with each other from now on. We had a few incidences in our first year of marriage where complete honesty was not present. We hurt each other in the process unintentionally. But we worked through this by communicating truthfully, explaining that it wasn't okay. We wouldn't accept being dishonest in our marriage, forgave each other and made sure to not make the same mistakes again, lining up our actions with our words. From what we have said so far, is it right to be honest to our partners in order to build trust in our marriages? Thanks for watching. Bye.